Hey everybody, it's Chris over at Dixieland Farm, and today I'm going to be flying the Dash 8 plane. Here, let's take a look at it real quick. Here is the Dash 8. It is an airliner. You may have said to yourself, Chris, I thought you were never going to fly an airliner, and that's true. After I finished the P3, I thought I was done, but the P3 in VATSIM, the training level, I wanted to. I was almost at like the elite of how many people actually have the ratings in VATSIM, and there was only one more left, and that's for the airliners. I have no interest in flying the airliners. Normally, in the sim world, I'd like to fly planes that, if I was a millionaire, I could afford. And this is not a plane I would fly, but something was nagging at me to at least read the material, and I read the material, and then I'm like, well, I already read the material. I should take the test, the written test, and I took the written test, and the only thing left is the actual check ride. So even though I have no interest in flying these planes after I'm done with this, probably it's been interesting and learning experience for me. So learning how to fly these airliners online with real traffic control. We're going to do a flight. I'm going to show you the plane. This is the Dash 8. This plane is 10 years old. It's been a while, and you see all the things in the background that are those are different planes that are online right now that are in this online world. So the Dash 8 is the de Havilland Dash 8. Now owned by Bombardier, holds, I think, 80 passengers. So we're going to be flying with 58 passengers today. And we've got a route already planned. Here is the route. We're going to be departing on a standard departure route, which is the Bang 2. And then we're going to, at Bang 2, we're finally going to go to Luck, which is an intersection. And then we'll be flying then. So we hear somebody coming in on 9 right. We're going to be departing on 9 left. So we, after Luck, we pick up the PZD VOR, and after that we follow the Victor Airway 97 to SZW, and from there we are off to Tallahassee. To land, this flight is 200 miles. It should take about 43 minutes. We'll be going roughly 280 knots. And yeah, so let's take a look at the plane. Let's get some stuff going. We've got passengers loading here. Unfortunately, they've got to leave the gate, walk down the stairs, and then walk onto the ramp. So what we're going to do is turn on the APU, that is the auxiliary power unit, and we get that thing going. And we've turned on our battery switches up here. We've turned on our battery switches in the top left-hand corner, and we're going to close our intake. And we are going to request a pushback from our tug.
Atlanta traffic, Endeavor 2969 is on a right base for runway 9 right.
Ground to cockpit. Plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you are ready.
So let's get a couple other things going. Let's get the weather here at Atlanta. 8 knots at 130, so we can still take off runway 9. That's not a problem, just a slight crosswind. It is gusting, and the altimeter, the barometer, is 3030, so let's dial that in. So that way we can know what altitude we're at. We are going to be flying runway heading of 9 for the moment, and we're going to probably level off at 5,000 as we do the bang before we do our full departure. So let's go ahead and hit heading mode, and we're going to do altitude select, and we're going to do an indicated airspeed of 160 knots. So that is the speed we're going to be flying, and that should give us a climb rate of roughly 2,500 to 3,000 feet per minute, depending. We are now going to program in our route that we've already got planned. So let me move this over to the other monitor and let's get our flight plan going. So we hit this button, we can actually just type with our keyboard. We're doing KATL is our origin. Our destination is KTLH. That is Jacksonville, Tallahassee rather. And we are flight Continental 5522. We'll put that in the flight. Our first departure is we're going to be taking the Bang 2 off of runway 9 left. So we're going to do that and execute. So on our flight plan, we are also going to LUC, LUCKK, right? And then we're going PZD direct, and then we're doing Victor 97 to SZW. Execute. So the departure, right? We've already picked the Bang 2 departure. Let's execute that. Yeah, good. Excellent. And arrival, do we know our arrival? Probably not. We'll decide that as we get down there. Most likely I would like the ILS, so let's see if we can get the weather. KTLH. So we'll do ILS 27, most likely is our arrival. So let's take a look at our legs. We're looking for any discontinuities. We can just bump that up. So we've got our entire flight plan programmed into our computer. We're going to change our nav source to FMS1. That is, we're going to let the computer decide where we're going. We've already programmed that in, and we're going to be dealing with the computer a lot more. And that is one thing that you end up doing on these big airliners. We're going to turn our doors page on. We're going to close the doors. We're going to get our fasten seatbelts, no smoking sign on. We're also going to, we've already got the bleed air, but we're going to turn recirculating air on, and that's going to help pressurize the cabin. So we are just about ready to request our pushback. Nobody's really around us.
And Atlanta traffic, Endeavor 2969, making a right base for runway 9 right.
So we got a plane coming in on 9 right. Nobody's really around me, so I'm not going to bother announcing that we are going to have a pushback at the moment. We're just going to go for it. So let's go ahead and request that pushback.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up. Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect. Winching strap and adapter in position. Release parking brake when ready to start pushback.
All right, so you heard the guy. We can start our engine. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our condition levers. Let's turn them down. Let's get our strobe on. We are going to go up top and we're going to select, get these on normal, and we're going to start. Engine number 2 is the first one that you start on the dash. So we wait until the NH over here rises above 15. Otherwise, we can get a hot start. We go ahead and give it fuel, and now the engine is starting up. So inside, we can go ahead and get engine 1 going. It is the same thing. We're going to turn off the bleed air so that way they don't breathe in too much smoke. Turn the bleeds on, that's the air conditioning. And same thing. We're going to wait till we get the NH above 15 and go ahead, add our fuel. So a hot start means that the temperature of the turbines could go way above 1,000 degrees, and that's way out of limit. So you let the turbines start a bit before you introduce gas into the system. We're going to turn our auto feather on, so what that means is when we take off, if we lose an engine, the engines will automatically compensate for that and do what we need it to do. We're going to turn off the spoilers into taxi mode. We're going to turn our hydraulics on, so our hydraulic pumps are going.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
So we set the parking brake just like the pushback I asked for.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Is on the 5 mile file for runway 9 right.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the left. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
Thank you very much. So off he goes into the airport, and let's go ahead and keep going with what we need to do. We can turn off our APU because the engines are running, and we are not going to be experiencing any clouds here, but we will keep the engine intakes set so that way rocks and debris and perhaps birds won't come into the engine's intake. We've got the air conditioning going, right? We've got the no seatbelts on. Let's go ahead and get our taxi and nav lights on. We've got them turned on now. And yeah, we are going to also, while we're here thinking about things, we're going to probably set our flaps to 5 degrees, not too hard to take off. And we're going to, again, take a look at our departure. So we're on the Bang 2. Let's take a look at the airport. So if we're on 9 left, we want to climb heading 9.5 to intercept course 115 to Grits. So we're going to climb heading 9.5 to intercept course 115 to Grits, then on depicted route to Bang. So we take off 9.5, 115 to Grits. Okay, we can do that. I think. We'll see. And then from there we take off and do the rest of the course. Great. So there are other aircraft here. We are going to be making some calls. It's pretty light in traffic, being Memorial Day. So let's get this thing going. We've got the fuel pumps on, and what else do we need to do? Like I said, we've got it in heading mode, we've got the indicated airspeed, we've got our auto feathers, and we're going to set our props right now. Speed, looks like we got the guy landing there. We're setting the props to 850 to taxi. We'll release the parking brake, and let's go ahead and start taxiing. We're going to make our call. Atlanta traffic, this is Continental 5522, taxiing to 9 left via Mike. Atlanta traffic. Alright, so that's letting people know that we're on the move, and we got an airplane over here, so we're going to be watching them.
And Atlanta traffic, Endeavor 2969 is clear for runway 9 right.
Pier 1017, 10 mile final, 08 left.
So he's coming 08 left, and we're doing runway 9. The Atlanta here has 5 runways.
Atlanta traffic, Delta 125, 9 left.
So we got one guy coming. I think he just said 9 left, so we'll keep and hold for him. And while we taxi here, we're going to turn on the pitot heat, and my switch box always misses just one switch. Can't figure out the programming of it.
And Atlanta traffic, Endeavor 2969 is taxiing to Concourse Alpha, Kilo Delta, Mike, and Lima 3, Atlanta.
So right.
Delta 125 short of Lima, we're going to give away the Continental on Mike.
So we got a guy crossing 9 left is the runway we're taking off, so we're just going to wait, listen for his call. We're going to take a look, make sure he's really crossed it. We're going to take off real quick, so the Delta is not really going to be inconvenienced way too much for us. Nobody's coming in, and right now Atlanta is being uncontrolled. It's because it's a holiday, because of the time. Sometimes there is no controller, and you have to do everything yourself, which is fine. There's a sense of cooperation here. It is a larger airport. People kind of know what they're doing are at this airport. So that's not always true, but that happens on the big hub airports. So
Atlanta traffic, Endeavor 2969, clear for runway 9 left.
And Atlanta traffic, Continental 5522, taking runway 9 left for a south departure on the Bang 2, Atlanta. So Yeah, we got the landing light and strobe lights on, taxi lights are off, and we got the pitot heat, right? And we're about lining up. Nobody's coming in. We're taking a look. We're good. And let's go ahead and get this thing actually lined up. Come on. We got the props on high. Come on. There we go. So, look at all those planes in front of us. Let's go ahead and take a look. Anything wrong? We're all good? We're all good. Let's take off. So remember, 95 to 115. Dancing on the pedals, trying to keep us straight. Airspeed is alive. We're looking at 120 knots to rotate, and we're almost there. And rotate. So we are rotating, and we are up, and we've tapped the brakes. We're holding soon.
Atlanta traffic, Delta 125, lighting up runway 91.
And so it is a climbing turn to 115. And we can actually now put it into nav mode, and we can get that autopilot and yaw dampener on. And
Delta 125, departing 90 left, Atlanta.
so we're changing the prop speed to 90.
Atlanta traffic, Sterling 762, pushback start, gate Echo 3, facing south.
Let's get that speed under control. So we're at 5,000 right now. And we don't want to go much faster than 230 knots at the moment. And you can see we are turning at grits, going to our next location. Plane is taking care of all of that. Let's take a look at that other aircraft. Here's the Delta taking off. So we got the flaps off, we got the lights all under control, we've got the air conditioning going for our passengers, and we are at 5,000 right now, and right now a controller would probably say we're now clear to our filed altitude of 11,000. So on my switch box here, I'm dialing in 11,000, as you can see. So here we go, 11,000, and we are going to
Atlanta traffic, Delta 916, joining a 20-mile final, runway 8 left.
Gonna hit altitude select, and we're gonna pick a vertical speed of indicated airspeed rather of 210. And I'm gonna increase my engine power so we can climb. We're climbing roughly 3,000 feet a minute here. The Dash 8 airplane, I control the throttle. A lot of the bigger airplanes, the throttle's all controlled by the computer system, but I'm the computer system. I'm the one that's handling it. So you've got to watch out for overspeeding and underspeeding and kind of fly the aircraft a little bit more. This model is 10 years old, and it's been updated since X-Plane 9 into 10 and into 11, and then it's going to be updated another point. This is called the legacy model. So there's some things that are a little funny with it. For instance, if you put luggage in the front of the aircraft, you see the nose bounce. Easy to fix, you just don't put luggage in the front. But things like that. So we are now on our way. So what can we do in the meantime? We can load up navigation to make sure that we are actually traveling where we should be. So our next radio navigation is 116.1 PCAN. So if we pull up the computer and bring up a radio and do 116 point, what was that? 116.1. and put that in our nav radio. And we load up. We cannot receive it at the moment, but we can also on our second radio load up Atlanta to see how far away from Atlanta we are. So you can see we've got the VOR. We're 22 miles now away from Atlanta. We still have not received the next radio beacon, but we are on course. On the ground, you can see we are traveling at 334 knots at the moment, and we are going to increase our speed here to roughly 290. So I'm going to just start bringing back the throttle just to slow that thing down. There we go. So our ground speed is now 346 knots. You can see our indicated speed is 293. We're allowed to be at that speed because we are above 10,000 feet. And because we're above 10,000 feet, we can turn off our landing lights. They're no longer needed. And anything else, we can open up, we can close those engine intakes. That's fine. So let's take a look outside of the plane. And we're flying here with orthographic scenery, which is how you can see this tile. It may be a different color from the other tile as they load in from the satellite imagery that I created. And when we get into Florida, we'll be landing with Orbit's True Earth satellite imagery. And that might be this mark right here. Might be. Because their tiles are a different color. Let's take a look at our route and see how we're doing. So we're about 6 nautical miles from Bang, and then 40 from Luck. So we're doing just fine. Did we ever put in a cruise altitude of 11,000? No, let's type that in now. And descent, yeah, and we want to be at 210 when we're at 5,000 feet. So the computer says we're 126 miles from our top of descent. We'll figure that out later. Apparently we've got some wind there, and it's figuring that out. And it says our arrival should be at 2207. So while we're here, let's go ahead and look at that other aircraft. Here's the Delta. So you can see our VOR has come in. So we're 53 miles away now from the Albany, Georgia VOR. And then we're going to be continuing into Tallahassee. So let's start thinking about what we're going to be doing when we get into Tallahassee. So right now the weather is 10 knot winds, gusting to 16 at 130. So we want to try to land into the wind, but we also want to use the ILS approach, which will help guide our plane in. So we could either go all the way down and come back up for the 36, or do ILS 27, which is more west. So I think we're going to be doing more west. So let's program in that plate. So from SCW to GADEC, and then there's a procedure hold. I've never done a procedure hold on the plane, but it should be good. It's an 8,000 feet runway, so I'm guessing flaps 15 is probably maybe a little overkill, but right about that, that'll be fine. Probably get away with flaps 10, but flaps 15. Anything shorter than that, I would do flaps 35, but that drastically changes the aircraft. I'll also have to kind of figure out touchdown speeds, but roughly 130 knots is probably what we're going to be doing, depending on the weight of the aircraft, which we're burning through fuel, so it's going to be changing, and that changes the speed of the aircraft. So, yeah, I'll have to figure that out as well. Speeds are good, temperature is good, fuel's good. Battery's good. We're on course. Following the line. We're on our way to PZD, and we can identify PZD on VOR1. So I happen to know Morse code. That was probably very low to you, but I actually knew it was P, Z, and D. If you didn't know, it actually would come up. They have these identifiers on the map, and you can see it's did, da, da, did, da, da, did, da, did. But I know Morse code, so I was able to hear it. So I'm going to be tuning in the Seminole 117.5 and seeing if we get a signal there. And just so we know, just in case something happened to the computer, we'd still be able to navigate. On this page, this is my pilot client that I use. So I've been constantly checking to make sure that there is no ATC coming online. And this is also radar. So there's that Delta 125. And he's flying at 35,200 feet in the air at 491 knots. So quite a bit faster than me. And you can see he's going to the north of me. We could also load up aircraft and see that information. So there he is, Peter. He's 11 miles away, and he is transmitting where he's going. So I'm keeping up the radar just to act as my own air traffic control to make sure nobody's in my vicinity. I'm not going to interrupt anybody, and that air traffic control does not come online. Once they come online, they're in charge of this plane, telling me where to go. Well, I'm always in charge of the plane, but telling me where to go and how to get there. They'll guide me in, and sometimes they come on right when you're in the middle of doing something, so it's always a good idea to keep an eye out for them. So tuned into VOR2 is where we are going in Jacksonville. So I'm looking for this thing to hit roughly around 30, and that's when I'm going to start my descent. When I'm 30 nautical miles away from the VOR2 that I've got programmed in, that's when I'm going to start descending. VOR1, I'm going to program in the ILS frequency. So the ILS frequency is what's going to guide me in to the runway, and it's going to actually help with my lateral path, finding the runway, and it's very sensitive, and it gets much more sensitive as you come in, but it's also going to help guide me down as well. So when I hit the approach mode, it's going to start helping me guide in and take over that part of it for me. By using the radio navigation, we can land at 258 feet on our altimeter. So the runway touchdown zone is at 58 feet. So we're roughly 200 feet above the runway. We are safe to land. As long as we can see the runway lights or the runway, we're clear to land by using that radio navigation. As I've set outside to a beautiful cloudless day, that won't be a problem. We are having real live wind and everything else, just the clouds are not being generated right now the way I have this set up. And part of the reason is I want to see the pretty scenery. So I want to see all the different stuff. So now we are definitely into orbits true Earth. You can see the details much more defined, and the colors are quite a bit different. We're going to hit altitude select, that is the altitude we want. Hit vertical speed, and we're going to go down at a... Let's do the 1,000 feet a minute. And we're going to decrease our throttle, so that way we do not overspeed as we go down. So I'm bringing that throttle way down. Once we cross over the 10,000 foot, we're supposed to be at 250 knots. So we're going to really bring that speed down. So we're going to bring this almost down to idle. And as we transition over, we're also going to have to turn on the landing lights. Below 10,000 feet, commercial airlines have their landing lights on, so that way they could be noticeable in the sky. So that's why you can see the landing lights are on now. So you can see our speed's coming down still, so we can go ahead and increase the throttle just a bit. Try to stop that. Let's go ahead and get that fasten seatbelts on. So our landing speed is roughly going to be 120 knots. And you can be 10 over. Okay, so we're 9 miles away from the Seminole VOR, which we have identified. And I'm loading up the plate on the other side of my computer because it's going to start happening fast. We're going to get down to 3,000 now. Good idea now to announce what we are, what we're doing. Tallahassee traffic, this is Continental 5522 heading to Gaysaid for the procedure hold for ILS runway 27, Tallahassee. Look at that Orbic scenery. Got all those different buildings. Very nice. All right, so now we're doing the hold, and let's go ahead and get our fuel pumps on. Let's go ahead and get our hydraulic controls on. We're going to not shut off the air conditioner yet, but we are going to do the procedure hold, which it is doing right now. So you can see the distance. There's the runway. We're doing the procedure turn. We can go ahead and arm the approach mode. So my autopilot was not behaving, so I decided to just go ahead and take evasive control, switching off the yaw damper. Everything else is on. We already got our lights on. Let's go ahead and get that air conditioning down to minimum. And we are now on the glide slope, so let's add some engine speed. We're sinking just a little bit, so let's add a little more. There we go. Plenty of runway, and we've got it lined up now exactly where we want it. We're at the speed that we want. It says we're a little bit high. So we'll wait until we get off the runway before we start cleaning up stuff. So now we are clear of the runway right there. So we can go ahead and take care of the flaps. Change the beacon to red, turn off landing and strobe lights. Let's go ahead and get the air conditioning back on for everybody, and let's we can, yeah, that's fine. We can turn off the pitot heat, right? Good. And let's load up a map here of KTLH and see exactly where we are. So we want to get to G. So Tallahassee traffic, this is Continental 5522, clear active runway. Taxiing to the gate via Bravo, Tallahassee. So I've let people know nobody's here, so it's fine. But we've got our spoilers now into taxi mode. So we go ahead and set the parking brake, and let's get some stuff going on here. We need to turn on the APU. Undo the fasten seatbelt. Leave the no smoking on. And yeah, so the engine needs to cool down for about 30 seconds, which we're probably getting pretty close to that. We can turn off the fuel pumps, we can turn off the hydraulic controls, and we can go ahead and probably kill those engines now. So as those engines die off, we can turn on the bleed air from the APU, and once the props get down below, I think 100, we can open up the doors. Get that passenger door open. Passengers can leave. Let's go ahead and clean up the rest of the aircraft. So we've turned off the all lights, including the beacon light. And yeah, so we are ready to shut down the avionics and the APU. Let's pretend everyone's already left. So that's all off. That is what a flight on a commercial aircraft is like an X-plane. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'm still learning. I'm still trying to get better, but a successful flight, I think. So, from Dixieland Farm, take care.